closed down and reopened under new management. Some people say that America is a democracy, and some say it's a republic. Some say it's just a banana republic now, and there's a dictator in the White House signing executive orders as if there never was a constitution. Some say the United States of America Corporation is actually a corporation, and the Queen owns everything, including the slaves, and they cite the documents which prove it. Whatever it is, it seems America is no longer working for the people, and radical change is needed. The people have lost their rights, freedoms, and almost all their power. When government tells you what you can do with rainwater that falls on your property, it's time to protest and put power back into the hands of the people who own this country, or at least used to own it. Today, they don't even own themselves. They are the property of the Queen. Instead of being innocent until proven guilty, they are guilty, and they have to spend a lot of money to prove their innocence. Due process of law is dead. In so many ways, the Constitution, which is what made America great in the first place, has been rendered obsolete by legislation, executive order, and court actions. And those who help them do it are traitors, judges, politicians, citizens, all traitors to this once great country. We are now at a crisis, and if we don't act now to put an end to this, the power we have today will all be gone in a short time. Each new law grants more power to the slave owners while reducing the power and the rights of the people. People don't trust banks or the Federal Reserve, and so they are buying gold. Gun sales are brisk, and those who control us have ways to see your guns hidden in your house and your gold hidden away. They can see it from a satellite that sends out a signal, and from the signal it gets back, they know where you have your guns and your gold. And when they knock on your door, they know right where to go to get it. They'll take your guns so you can't defend yourself, and they'll take your gold so you have no means. And if you leave the money in the bank, they will wipe out all your bank accounts. You think the FDIC insures you to $100,000? Think again. The FDIC is broke, borrowing money, and the only money they count is money they haven't received, $48 billion from charging banks premiums 3 years in advance on the federal deposit insurance. A lot of people ask me, where is money safe? I don't know where it's safe. Everything you propose has flaw. And with satellites able to look into your house, right through the walls, and tell the difference between the density of gold and the density of wood and asphalt and cement, they can see every square inch of your property. And if you dug a hole in the backyard, they can even tell that the ground was disturbed. So don't dare plant a garden, or you will be sent to the concentration camps, and they will come in and go right for your gold when you are incarcerated. Remember, the objective is to take your money and kill you. And George Green went to the meetings, and he told the story about Ted Kennedy seeing his 14-year-old daughter and saying out loud, "I want to have sex with her." And George Green said, "No, you don't. That's my 14-year-old daughter." And Ted Kennedy said, "I don't care." George Green is the guy who transcribed the book, The Handbook for the New Paradigm. It was alien advice to us. The aliens were from the Pleiades. So if you're not familiar with that book, don't try to read it. You won't be able to. It was written by people with an IQ of 1,000. And the world has changed since that book was written. It's a different ballgame today. That book was useful 10, 15 years ago. It's not as useful today. Some people are so naive that they think that the slave masters are in dire straits and their empire is crumbling. I don't see any signs of that, do you? Be realistic. The only thing I see crumbling is our economy, and that's part of the genocidal plan. Their plan is to starve us to death and bring the world's population down by 4 billion. That plan is alive and well. If you are so naive that you don't even know what they have planned, or that you don't even know how much power they really have, then go ahead and talk about the light and that the people will prevail in the end. It's apparent you don't know how far along they are on their plan. And you are, I'll be kind, naive. Maybe you're going around calling everyone a disinformation king, conspiracy theorist, tinfoil hat, fearmonger. Maybe you're doing that for the slave masters and you don't even know who you work for, because they have mastered mind control. And they plant such ideas in your mind. And you don't even know how they do it. You don't know Montauk. You don't know subliminal messages on your television. But we see the evidence that all of you are saying the same things. And some of us know that this is mind control. You are not free thinkers. Your job is to intimidate those who think freely, insult them, ridicule them, and drive them back into the herd. Well, some of us are not intimidated, and we're not going to be driven back into the herd because we don't like being part of a herd and we don't like being slaughtered. There is a body of evidence out there, personal testimony from those who were directly involved in these mind control projects, suggests that they not only have conducted mind control experiments, but they have mastered it. They can turn a college student into an assassin, and he isn't even aware of it most of the time. When he gets killed, who's going to tell the authorities that he was hypnotized, as Andy Perro was? And when the authorities are the ones who are doing the hypnotizing of the assassins, how far do your protests get? Ask Ted Gunderson. He protested. He worked for the FBI and he loved this country. Gunderson investigated and found a connection that runs all the way up to the CIA. He found that the CIA was involved with daycare centers and was training sex slaves, children who were turned into prostitutes for government and Hollywood and the rich and famous. And so who do you think wants to keep a lid on this? Hollywood, the rich and famous, and government. Now, do you think they have any chance of doing that? One brave person steps forward, Bryce Taylor, and she tells her story, and some of you ridicule her. Andy Perro also links the CIA to hypnotism and the assassinations. Andrew Basiago was part of a government program, Pegasus, and he did time travel. So if you want to doubt one of these people, you can, but you can't doubt them all. Can you? Larry Solars tells a similar story. He was part of the Super Warrior program. Bryce Taylor gives her testimony as a preteen prostitute who was taken against her will. Do you want this kind of thing happening to children? What kind of America has this become? Do you want government to take your child and turn a member of your family into an assassin or a child prostitute? When are you going to recognize the fact that whatever America is, it needs to be closed down and reopened under new management? If you are calling others conspiracy theorist or tinfoil hat, you're on the wrong team. You're working against us, and you are one of us. You're a traitor, and you probably don't even know it. You are helping the slave masters enslave the people. For you, it's already too late. You will never learn enough to save yourself or your family. When you finally do wake up, you're going to grab a gun and start killing people. Those people you kill will be some of us. You're not going to ever reach the real guilty people. You're going to kill those who tried to warn you of the changes that alarmed us. You're going to take up arms and blow away those who are just trying to survive. You accomplish nothing for us, and you help the enemy accomplish the population reduction they have planned. They know very well how to get you to do their dirty work. If you were smart, you would have studied the weapons they have and the tactics they use and have implemented over the past decade, and you would know their long-term strategy as well. If you were smart, you might have a clue as to how they use every single government agency to their advantage, corrupting everyone who works for that conspiratorial body, and how that agency is used to control you. If you were smart, you'd be working to inform others instead of buying guns and making plans to start murdering us. We mean you no harm. We are just trying to prevent the downslope slide that we feel under our feet. But it's a lot of work to do your research for you, and when we do, you reject it, calling us fearmongers and tinfoil hats. If you have never been shot with a gun, you might have this experience because they're not going to allow you to go around killing people. It's not the people that they wish to protect, but themselves. If they permit you to have guns, you just might get one of the elite into your crosshairs by mistake, and they can't have that. So you will be disarmed. We will all be disarmed, and it will happen when you're relaxed and waiting for your Savior. Some think it's Jesus returning, but Jesus is dead. He died in India about 80 years after the crucifixion. Religion was designed to control you, and it's working. Some think it's alien intervention, but the slave masters have hologram technology, and they can make you think you saw a craft when actually you saw a hologram. They have mind control techniques that you don't know about and won't ever know about because you're too busy calling people tinfoil hats and conspiracy theorists. Well, the conspiracies are real, and your illusionary world is not. They create the illusion of freedom, and you believe it, because they control your news, and it's all propaganda. They have you thinking that their funds are all tied up, and they're broke. But the truth is, they have so much money in just one account, they could pass out $1 million to every man, woman, and child on earth, and still have a huge balance in just that one account. And they have several accounts in each of many institutions. There's a list of 391 different institutions. And when you look at how many accounts they have in each of those institutions, you'll be aghast. When you look at the number of zeros in each of those accounts, it's unbelievable that they have so much money. This idea that they are broke is insane to those who know the truth. Did you wonder how it's possible for them to buy anyone? Did you wonder why so many senators vote to continue the unconstitutional Patriot Act? The slave masters were hypnotizing those in the FBI, and when the FBI found out about it, they were alarmed and they tried to stop it. But they had already hypnotized too many of them, and it was not possible to stop it. And eventually they got to everyone. And now they own the FBI, they own the puppet president, and they own the Supreme Court. They own all of Congress. That's why Congress no longer represents you. And when Drake proposed that the people have final approval on all legislation, I knew that was the right idea. Now, I said that they control Congress and they control the FBI, they control the CIA. Is that making sense to you, or do you have your own theory? Maybe you never thought about it. Do you think it's time to begin thinking about this? If you think that Jesus is coming to save you, let me tell you that many people died waiting, and still more are going to die anticipating this fantasy. While the reality is they own you, and they own almost everyone in this country. They own so many of us that it doesn't even matter anymore if you know that they did 9/11 or that they killed the president in 1963. They have enough power so it no longer matters if you know. What can you do besides tell others what you know? That's all you can do. Tell others what you know, if you actually know something. And most Americans don't know the difference between a fact and an opinion. They don't really understand evidence or critical thinking. Trust the personal testimony of those citizens who have come forward. Bryce Taylor, Andy Perro, Phil Schneider, Andrew Basiago, Larry Solars, and Dr. Bill Deagle are enough names to get you started. Each one of them will lead you to 10 more names. And if you follow up on the research of each, you'll begin to collect the right information. Turn off the propaganda channels and don't drink government water because they have put chemicals in it to control you. The FDA called it rat poison and insecticide until they started putting it into your drinking water. Fluorine does nothing good for your teeth when it's ingested. Actually, it damages healthy teeth. You are being poisoned by your own government and lied to. Now, if you think their empire is crumbling and they are broke and about to give up, then you really don't understand the situation. So hang on to that dream that they are broke, and maybe one day you will understand why that is an illusion. Do you think that people are happy today with the unemployment and the bad economy you see all around you? Nobody owns anything. You always have to pay some slave master for the privilege of living. You probably don't like being told that you have been deluded by slave masters. You probably don't enjoy being turned into a slave, but this happened a long time ago. When we get to a point where all bills that are passed by Congress come back to the people for final approval, and no bill becomes law without the final approval of the citizens of this country, then you will be in a free society. This final approval of the people should be used as your criteria for judging whether you are in a free society, and it should be set as your goal. Final approval by we the people of the United States of America, not the U.S. corporation, but the republic that was set forth upon this continent in 1776. The founding fathers would turn over in their graves if they knew what had happened to their great ideas and the Constitution. As long as the puppet president is signing executive orders and circumventing Congress, you are not free. You are a slave. Take a look at your paycheck. Those are your wages, and someone took a third of them from you. And you have the illusion that it ought to be that way. You are paying for roads and bridges. The truth is, the money confiscated from your paycheck doesn't pay for roads or bridges or anything else of value to you. That money is spent by those at the top of the pyramid. They have high salaries, and your pay is just barely enough to survive. They have created a system whereby wealth is created at the bottom by you and then flows up to the top so it can be enjoyed by the slave masters who feed upon us as if we were a different species, pigs, cows, and sheep. Look out into a pasture of cattle. Do you see how we use them for meat and milk? That's you're looking at. You thought you were at the top of the food chain, but actually you are at the bottom of the human food chain. Is there anyone there with you right now? Have them slap you real hard so you can wake up and dispel the illusion that you are at the top of the food chain. Then have them slap you again real hard so you can really recover from your slumber. You watched a lot of situation comedies and ball games. They distracted you while the slave masters took away all your freedoms. They engaged you, fighting your own kind, and they had you believing that your true enemy was the left, the right, the Democrats, the Republicans, the up, the down, the black, the white, the Muslim, the Christian, the Jew. You are fighting your own people. And who instigated this? The slave masters. Why? To control you, to defeat you, to spend all of your energy fighting each other. Your true enemy is the one who divided the people and pitted one group against the other in endless warfare and strife. They set up the organizations, each one another conspiracy. And then they taught you how to say conspiracy theorist, and you said it thousands of times, making it all but illegal to believe the truth that there are conspiracies all around you. And if one cow finds a hole in the fence, you ridicule him back into the herd, back into captivity, so its milk and meat can be enjoyed by those at the top of the food chain. It's hard to wake up when you haven't a clue about how they organized each one of these institutions, like the United Nations, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the Bank of International Settlements, the Federal Reserve, and the IRS. Each one a separate conspiracy, and there are at least 1,000 more. Many of them you never heard of. And when I did a video on this channel for the Bank of International Settlements, it was among the lowest of all viewerships of my videos. This is alarming to me. Do you know what was the highest? Benjamin Fulford, who tells you that the empire is crumbling, the dark cabal is broke, and there were arrests recently of Timothy Geithner and Bill Gates. You accepted that without proof, and you were deluded. And you thought you saw a recent interview between Fox News' Shep Smith and Judge Napolitano, but actually that interview was done more than 2 years ago, January of 2010. But since it was uploaded again recently, you were fooled. It's easy to fool you and easy to play you as if you were a piano. The slave masters are capable of producing fine music where you are concerned. If they need soldiers to die in their wars, they play that tune, and they have so many recruits, they don't know which wars to put them all into. They have to start new wars to make use of all the sucker recruits. Gullible, glassy-eyed soldiers are telling friends that they are heroes fighting for their country. They go off to war, come home in a box with a flag on it, and their friends and families are happy. They never discover the propaganda tools like the flag on the coffin and the announcement that Muslims did 9/11 and other terrorist acts. They never discover the propaganda tool of a false flag. When soldiers come home dead, they don't talk. They don't talk about guarding poppy fields or killing innocent children. But living soldiers on the battlefield are very unhappy. They soon figure out what's really going on, and they find out that the Marines they joined is not the Marines that kill innocent children. And so they are unhappy in the battlefield, and more commit suicide than die in combat. The suicide figures speak more truth than all the propaganda in 10 years of subliminal message television. The state controls the media, and you think it's news. Some people are seeking the truth, and the alternative media sources are growing faster than the poppy plants in Afghanistan. You use heroin, don't you? You know what the poppy seed is used for, don't you? If you're not a drug user now, you will be, because that is high on the list of the Committee of 300. Getting everyone hooked on drugs is one of their top 20 objectives. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you that. I did a video on that. You can watch that video of the top 20 objectives of the Committee of 300. It's disturbing. When people watch that video, they stop calling us conspiracy theorists because the conspiracy is clear. They stop calling us nut jobs, nutcases, and tinfoil hats. They stop doing the dirty work for the slave masters. And once you become a conspiracy theorist, you'll be among the informed and the enlightened. For now, you just continue on your present course. You're like sheep on a truck and you're headed for the slaughterhouse. Even if you wake up, you can't get out of the truck because you think the empire of the dark cabal is crumbling. Enjoy the ride, and I'll see you next time. Whatever America is, it needs to be closed down and reopened under new management. Some people say that America is a democracy, and some say it's a republic. Some say it's just a banana republic now, and there's a dictator in the White House signing executive orders as if there never was a constitution. Some say the United States of America Corporation is actually a corporation, and the Queen owns everything, including the slaves, and they cite the documents which prove it. Whatever it is, it seems America is no longer working for the people, and radical change is needed. The people have lost their rights, freedoms, and almost all their power. When government tells you what you can do with rainwater that falls on your property, it's time to protest and put power back into the hands of the people who own this country, or at least used to own it. Today, they don't even own themselves. They are the property of the Queen. Instead of being innocent until proven guilty, they are guilty, and they have to spend a lot of money to prove their innocence. Due process of law is dead. In so many ways, the Constitution, which is what made America great in the first place, has been rendered obsolete by legislation, executive order, and court actions. And those who help them do it are traitors, judges, politicians, citizens, all traitors to this once great country. We are now at a crisis, and if we don't act now to put an end to this, the power we have today will all be gone in a short time. Each new law grants more power to the slave owners while reducing the power and the rights of the people. People don't trust banks or the Federal Reserve, and so they are buying gold. Gun sales are brisk, and those who control us have ways to see your guns hidden in your house and your gold hidden away. They can see it from a satellite that sends out a signal, and from the signal it gets back, they know where you have your guns and your gold. And when they knock on your door, they know right where to go to get it. They'll take your guns so you can't defend yourself, and they'll take your gold so you have no means. And if you leave the money in the bank, they will wipe out all your bank accounts. You think the FDIC insures you to $100,000? Think again. The FDIC is broke, borrowing money, And the only money they count is money they haven't received. $48 billion from charging banks premiums 3 years in advance on the federal deposit insurance. A lot of people ask me, where is money safe? I don't know where it's safe. Everything you propose has flaw. And with satellites able to look into your house, right through the walls, and tell the difference between the density of gold and the density of wood and asphalt and cement, they can see